How can you expect people to understand if you won't explain? I get the whole, like, it's not my job to explain it to you thing. Like, if you don't want to explain, you don't have to. That's okay. And no one can blame this person if they were to have done what they normally would have done. I want to start with spoon theory. And this is something that is beyond brilliant and beyond made me feel seen when I heard about this. You know, it's really difficult to explain the rationing that we have to do. You know, when you're disabled and you know that certain things will cost you a lot, and maybe you don't even know why or can't explain why. But, you know, it feels like other people don't live that way, right? It feels like other people just have, you know, an engine, it runs all day, and then they want to go to bed, they turn it off, they lay down, they go to sleep, they wake up and they turn it on again. I mean, I can't even imagine having a life like that. Where as long as you're interested and physiologically stable, that, you know, you just go through your day. Spoon theory has, you know, just been very helpful in both understanding myself and how to explain things to other people. So this isn't that long, we'll just kind of read through this and I'll just kind of insert my own experiences here. So, my best friend and I were in the diner talking. As usual, it was very late and we were eating French fries with gravy. Like normal girls our age, we spent a lot of time in the diner while in college, and most of the time we spent talking about boys, music, or trivial things that seemed very important at the time. We never got serious about anything in particular and spent most of our time laughing. As I went to take some of my medicine with a snack, as I usually did, she watched me with an awkward kind of stare instead of continuing the conversation. She then asked me out of the blue what it felt like to have lupus and be sick. I was shocked, not only because she asked the random question, but also because I assumed she knew all there was to know about lupus. She came to doctors with me, she saw me walk with a cane and throw up in the bathroom. She had seen me cry in pain. What else was there to know? This would have been my exact same thought. Exact same thought. I started to ramble on about pills and aches and pains, but she kept pursuing and didn't seem satisfied with my answers. I was a little surprised, as being my roommate in college and friend for years. I thought she already knew the medical definition of lupus. Then she looked at me with a face every sick person knows well, the face of pure curiosity about something no one healthy can ever truly understand. She asked what it felt like, not physically, but what it felt like to be me, to be sick. Think about this for a minute. If you're, you know, also disabled or just really, you know, whatever struggles you might face, even if it's temporary, has anyone asked you that? Anybody? Like, for real, like, no, like, not for me. Not that I can remember anyway. I mean, that's a friend, man. That's, you know, being seen like this can just make a world of difference for both you and other people. And so, and this is proof of that, right? You'll see. As I tried to gain my composure, I glanced around the table for help or guidance, or at least stall for time to think. I was trying to find the right words. Do I answer a question I never was able to answer for myself? Exactly. Do you know the answer? I mean, I do now, but I certainly didn't a year ago. How do I answer a question I was never able to answer for myself? How do I explain every detail of every day being affected and give the emotions a sick person goes through with clarity? I could have given up, cracked a joke like I usually do, and changed the subject, but I remember thinking, if I don't try to explain this, how can I ever expect her to understand? Yes, exactly. How can you expect people to understand if you won't explain? I get the whole, like, it's not my job to explain it to you thing. Like, if you don't want to explain, you don't have to. That's okay. And no one can blame this person if they were to have done what they normally would have done, as they say. But yeah, I mean, we've got to reach out, right? If I can't explain this to my best friend, how could I explain my world to anyone else? I had to at least try. And from here, the spoon theory was born. Just this one honest moment. This one honest moment sparked something huge for a movement, or at least it should be. I quickly grabbed every spoon at the table. Hell, I grabbed spoons off of the other tables. I looked at her in the eyes and said, "Here you go, you have lupus." She looked at me slightly confused, as anyone would when they are being handed a bouquet of spoons. The cold metal spoons clanked in my hand as I grouped them together and shoved them into her hands. I explained that the difference in being sick and being healthy is having to make choices or to consciously think about things when the rest of the world doesn't have to. That privilege, right? I mean that's what privilege is. That's what it, like, if you don't have to think about these things, you should feel privileged. These are things that not everyone has. The healthy have the luxury of a life without choices, a gift most people take for granted. Most people start the day with unlimited amount of possibilities and energy to do whatever they desire, especially young people. For the most part, they do not need to worry about the effects of their actions, so for my explanation, I used spoons to convey this point. I wanted something for her to actually hold, for me to then take away, since most people who get sick feel a loss of a life they once knew. Oh my god. Getting a little choked up, like, honestly, even saying those words. You know, there's a real mourning process that has to happen for people like us who might feel like the life we were supposed to have was robbed from us in one way or another. And you can't, I mean, you have to mourn it and let it go, right? That's such a hard process. If I was in control of taking away the spoons, then she would know what it feels like to have someone or something else, in this case lupus, being in control. She grabbed the spoons with excitement. She didn't understand what I was doing, but she is always up for a good time, so I guess she thought I was cracking a joke of some kind, like I usually do when talking about touchy topics. Little did she know how serious I would become. I love that. I asked her to count her spoons. She asked why, and I explained that when you are healthy, you expect to have a never-ending supply of spoons. But when you have to now plan your day, you need to know exactly how many spoons you're starting with. It doesn't guarantee that you might not lose some along the way, but at least it helps to know where you are starting. She counted out 12 spoons. She laughed and said she wanted more. I said no, and I knew right away that this little game would work when she looked disappointed, and we hadn't even started yet. Yeah, that punches me right there. Yeah, that's it. Like, you want so much more. You want more spoons. And you just have to do what you can, you know? And that's the bottom line, isn't it? I've wanted more spoons for years and haven't found a way yet to get more. Why should she? I also told her to always be conscious of how many she had and not to drop them, because she can never forget she has lupus. Oof. I asked her to list off the tasks of her day, including the most simple. As she rattled off daily chores or just fun things to do, I explained how each one would cost her a spoon. When she jumped right into getting ready for work as her first task of the morning, I cut her off and took away a spoon. I practically jumped down her throat. I said, "No, you don't just get up. You have to crack open your eyes and then realize you were late. You didn't sleep well the night before. You have to crawl out of bed, and then you have to make yourself something to eat before you can do anything else. Because if you don't, you can't take your medicine. And if you don't take your medicine, you might as well give up all your spoons for today and tomorrow too." You know, some things are incredibly costly for people like us. And some things have to happen. Some things have to happen or not happen for us to even have max spoons. Sometimes we wake up and we have no spoons for the day. That can happen as well. I quickly took away a spoon, and she realized that she hasn't even gotten dressed yet. Showering cost her spoon. Just for washing her hair and shaving her legs, reaching high and low that early in the morning could actually cost more than 1 spoon. But I figured I would give her a break. I didn't want to scare her right away. Getting dressed was worth another spoon. I stopped her and broke down every task to show her every little detail needs to be thought through. She cannot simply just throw clothes on when you are sick. I explained that I have to see what clothes I can physically put on. If my hands hurt that day, buttons are out of the question. If I have bruises that day, I need to wear long sleeves. If I have a fever, I need a sweater to stay warm, and so on. If my hair's falling out, I need to spend more time to look presentable, and then you need to factor in another 5 minutes for feeling badly that it took you 2 hours to do all of this. Yeah, I can relate to that. I no longer berate myself for things taking a long time. But I can absolutely remember how disappointed in myself I was all the time. I think she was starting to understand when she theoretically didn't even get to work and she was left with 6 spoons. I then explained to her that she needed to choose the rest of her day wisely, since when your spoons are gone, they are gone. Sometimes you can borrow against tomorrow's spoons. Oh, that's so good. Sometimes you can borrow against tomorrow's spoons. I mean, that's what we do when we push ourselves really, really hard, right? It's going to cost us the next day. For sure. You know, I've had times where a friend desperately needed me, and I knew that if I gave up my time, it would cost me the next day's spoons. It could cost me going into it could cause me, that disruption could cause me a meltdown. And then I'm out of commission. You know, a lot of people are, and they won't talk about it. So sometimes you can borrow against tomorrow's spoons, but just think how hard tomorrow will be with less spoons. I also needed to explain that a person who is sick always lives with the looming thought that tomorrow may be the day that a cold comes, or an infection, or any number of things that could be very dangerous. Yeah. I haven't dealt with this physically, but it's the same thing mentally. I have no idea if I could walk into work and my productivity for the whole week can be gone if something is upsetting enough. So you do not want to run low on spoons, because you never know when you truly will need them. I didn't want to depress her, but I needed to be realistic, and unfortunately being prepared for the worst is part of a real day for me. We went through the rest of the day, and she slowly learned that skipping lunch would cost her a spoon, as well as standing on a train or even typing at her computer too long. She was forced to make choices, and think about things differently. Hypothetically, she had to choose not to run errands so that she could eat dinner that night. When we got to the end of her pretend day, she said she was hungry. I summarized that she had to eat dinner, but she only had 1 spoon left. If she cooked, she wouldn't have enough energy to clean the pots. If she went out for dinner, she might be too tired to drive home safely. Then I also explained that I didn't even bother to add into this game, that she was so nauseous that cooking was probably out of the question anyway. So she decided to make soup. It was easy. I then said it was only 7. You have the rest of the night, but maybe end up with 1 spoon so you can do something fun, or clean your apartment, or do chores. But you can't do it all. Right around 7 o'clock. I don't know if you guys get this, but that's literally, I could not wait to get, this happens all the time, cannot wait to get through my day. And once I do, I don't have anything left to have fun with. I don't have anything left to reinvest into getting into a new game, trying a new game, any of it. I rarely see her emotional, so when I saw her upset, I knew maybe I was getting through to her. I didn't want my friend to be upset, but at the same time, I was happy to think finally maybe someone understood me a little bit. She had tears in her eyes and asked quietly, "Christine, how do you do it? Do you really do this every day?" I explained that some days were worse than others, some days I have more spoons than most, but I can never make it go away and I can't forget about it. I always have to think about it. I handed her a spoon I had been holding in reserve. I said simply, "I have learned to live life with an extra spoon in my pocket in reserve. You need to always be prepared." I mean, it's just, this is how we live. We have to. We don't have a choice. We have no way to know what's coming. It's hard. The hardest thing I ever had to learn is to slow down and not do everything. I fight this to this day and not do everything. We can't do everything. No, I mean, even people who are not disabled sometimes, like, there's just never enough time or energy sometimes, the way the world is set up, and we're not the problem. The way the world is set up to make everything incredibly difficult for a great many people, that is the problem. I fight this to this day, hate feeling left out, having to choose to stay home or to not get things done that I want to. I wanted her to feel that frustration. I wanted her to understand that everything everyone else does comes so easy, but for me it is 100 little jobs in one. And that's where the executive dysfunction comes in, right? Because other people look at these jobs, they look at doing one thing, and they think that's one task, right? Going to work is a task. Sure, that's true. Other people think of that as one task, and so they decide to do that, and they do that, and the rest just happens, right? But that's not, for those of us that struggle, those of us that can relate to and use spoon theory, that's not how we necessarily, that's not what our brain tells us. I can't convince my brain differently anyway. You need to get up and go to work, right? But like, for me, for an example, I have to get up, I have to, I'm super groggy, I'm in a perfect dream, like, I could doze forever, I could sleep forever. Just breaking out of that to face a day where I'm going to have to push myself to the limits, which is just about every day. That is huge. And getting up, getting dressed, getting everything together, making sure everything is in the right place, not forgetting anything. These can be incredibly problematic for disabled people. Absolutely. I need to think about the weather, my temperature that day, and the whole day's plans before I can attack any one given thing. When other people can simply do things, I have to attack it and make a plan like I'm strategizing a war. That's what this process, even this video, getting that out, that's what this process has been for me. It is in that lifestyle, the difference between being sick and healthy. It is the beautiful ability to not think and just do. I miss that freedom. I miss it. I miss never having to count spoons. Unfortunately, I don't know what that's like. And I don't think I ever will. I wonder what that's like. I do. After we were emotional and talked about this for a little while longer, I sensed she was sad. Maybe she finally understood. Maybe she realized that she could never truly and honestly say she understands. But at least now she might not complain so much when I can't go out for dinner some nights, or when I never seem to make it to her house and she always has to drive to mine. I gave her a hug when we walked out of the diner. I had the one spoon in my hand and I said, "Don't worry. I see this as a blessing. I have been forced to think about everything I do. Do you know how many spoons people waste every day? I don't have room for wasted time or wasted spoons, and I chose to spend this time with you." If you have someone in your life that struggles, that time is really a gift. You know, sometimes that's the only gift I can give people around me, is spending that time with them. You know, there are times that I am, you know, my partner is here and all I can do is watch TV and we just hang out and that's it. And, you know, that's time I could be using for myself that I might need. This is all a consideration with people who have such limited time and energy. Ever since that night, I used the spoon theory to explain my life to many people. In fact, my family and friends refer to spoons all the time. It has been a code word for what I can and cannot do. You're going to hear me say this a lot on this channel. Spoons. I have spoons. I didn't have spoons. I lost my spoons. How many spoons? I like to quantify things. As an autist, it's like my favorite thing to quantify things. Let's see. Once people understand the spoon theory, they seem to understand me better, but I also think that they live their life a little bit differently too. I think it isn't just good for understanding lupus, but anyone dealing with any disability or illness. Hopefully they don't take so much for granted or their life in general. I give a piece of myself in every sense of the word for when I do anything. It has become an inside joke. I have become famous for saying that to people jokingly that they should feel special when I spend time with them because they have one of my spoons. Yeah. You know, when we talk about ableism, this is what we're talking about. This is the bottom line. You know, some people don't have more to give. And when those people are rejected, that's literally a definition of ableism. The best you reject someone for the best they can do. I mean, obviously this is not, you know, it's different, like protecting, you know, if anyone is abusive, that's different, obviously. But sometimes it's okay to let someone slide and give them the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes you just got to be patient with people.